Hey, I'd like to welcome you to the show, Breakthrough Walls. I'm Ken Walls. I'm your host. Listen, today I have an unbelievable guy on. The guy he's become a very, very good friend of mine. He's, you'll see, he's one of the funniest guys that I've ever known. His name is Frank Lopes. And I'm going to go ahead and bring Frank on in here. Frank, welcome to the show. I appreciate you coming on, man.
It's an honor to be here. I got to be honest, Ken. I don't even know what I'm doing here. I got to ask you if like you hit your head or something like that, or if something happened, because the quality of guests that you have on here usually is much, much higher than, higher ranking than me. So I don't know. I appreciate you throwing a crumb down to the little people for us to, for us to have our, for us to have a little taste of success here, and maybe we can all learn. So I greatly appreciate being here. And no, seriously, look, the guests that you've had on the show thus far really speak a huge testament, not to themselves, but honestly to you, because you've had some really great people, some people who have done some amazing things, and some people that really have great messages to share and real genuine help to give. And the fact that they want to partner up with you, to bring that out, that just speaks volumes, honestly, about you, buddy. So
hey, I appreciate that, man. I feel lucky. I mean, I feel lucky. You're right. I've had some unbelievable people, and then you on top of it, man. That's crazy. So, I've told you before, and I'll say it again. I see you as like I watch you. I watch your content. I don't stalk you. I watch what you're doing.
Why not?
Yeah, but dude, you put out some amazing stuff. You have a lot of wisdom to share, and I think that wisdom only comes through getting your butt kicked in life, and I think you've had that, and
I really wish that in a way, I wish that it could come. At least I wish that it could have come to me in a much easier way than me getting punched in the mouth over and over again. By mistakes and by bad choices and stuff. But look, that's in reality. That's why I spend a tremendous amount of time creating content to share with people. That's why I do things like this. That's why you do this. Yeah. It's so that other people don't have to take the same punches in the mouth that we took. Yeah. Maybe we can avoid a little bit of hardship or a little bit of a little bit of pain for someone by simply sitting and talking together, and someone else can just watch and pick something up out of it. I mean, if one person watches this today, I mean, a lot of people are going to watch it because, your bandwidth is so huge. But if one person watches it and grabs one thing and averts a little bit of pain for themselves, yeah, or their family, or their children, then this is worth doing 100 times over, man.
I agree with you, man. That's why, I don't like, I'm putting together the website right now, and I was writing the content talking about this show, and I'm like, I've been very, very blessed with, I mean, dude, you're a busy guy. You're donating your time here to be here, and Sharon Lecter and Bob Berg and Lisa Copeland and Lisa Marie Kennedy and some unbelievable people like David Cribbs. That guy is phenomenal. So I'm very, very, I'm blessed. So, but let's get to the meat of the show. Let's talk about Frank, because Frank, you have an amazing story. I've heard lots of the parts, but I don't think I've heard everything. Let's start with where you were born and raised. I mean, you kind of have that Russian accent. I'm just kidding.
I wish right now that I could do a Russian accent, because if I could, I would probably attempt doing the whole rest of this live in a Russian accent. But if I do, it's going to sound like a really bad Ivan Drago Rocky IV thing, and most people are going to click out, or we definitely don't want to go down that road.
That's funny.
But your joke, your joke rings true because obviously I was not born in Russia. I was born in New Jersey, and you like to always take a little stab at the way I talk. But that's all good because people love the word.
I love it, man. I love your
I know
accent,
you
dude.
do. I know you say it with love too. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So I was born. So I was born and raised in New Jersey. Still live in New Jersey. My parents actually came to America in 1967 from Portugal.
Wow.
They came here. They came here basically on an idea. They had applied for a visa 3 years before, never heard anything about it, and then one day in the mail, the visa just showed up. So they came here. By the time, after expenses, by the time that they actually got to New Jersey, they had $13 in their pocket.
Wow.
Right. And then when they came here, my father was a barber in Portugal for, umpteen years, basically his whole life. He was working at the time, he was working at the premier barber shop in Lisbon, Portugal. It was right across from the U.S. Embassy.
Wow.
And he was cutting hair of all like dignitaries, foreign dignitaries of people, high level government in Portugal. He comes here and he suddenly realizes that you can't become a barber in New Jersey, and I think in every state actually, you can't become a barber here unless you have a license.
Right.
And you can't, and to get a license, you have to pass the test, and to pass the test, you have to be able to speak, read, and write English, which he couldn't. So he immediately, that was the first punch in the mouth was
Yeah.
you got, and all of a sudden, okay, the thing that he was an absolute professional at the time, he was suddenly suddenly awarded this huge handicap and couldn't do it. Couldn't
It
do
was
it.
in 67.
This was in '67.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's cool. I actually have like their passport and everything with the stamp inside of it of when they came here. It's actually the only, and what's funny and kind of sad at the same time, it's the only stamp in their passport because they never really went back except for once in the '90s. But besides that, that's the only stamp in there. But that's a whole nother story about how you should really, make sure that the days don't go by and do as much as you possibly can all the time. So, so my father was instantly thrown into the corner and had to fight his way back. So he got a job working for a bus company as a mechanic because he was extremely handy. He worked for that bus company for I think 7 or 8 years, and then he got a job at a car dealership, at a Lincoln Mercury dealership in East Brunswick, New Jersey, where they had purchased a car, actually. And my mother was a housekeeper. She was a housekeeper in Portugal. And then when she came here, she just continued to do the same thing. She was a housekeeper in a private home. And at 11 years old is where my life really made a huge change. My father said 5 words that basically changed the course of my life all the way up to where I'm sitting today. So at 11, my mother basically didn't know what to do with me anymore, right? Because if I wasn't in school, right, I'm 11 years old. I used to go with her, to the house where she was working. But at 11, I'm getting into stuff. I want to play. I want to hang out with my friends. You know what I mean? So I'm too big to, I'm too big to be able to babysit, and at the same time, I'm not big enough to leave alone.
Right.
So my father says the 5 words, "I'll take him with me." So at 11 years old, I started going to the car dealership where my father worked with him every day, and it became a rule basically that if I did not have school, I went to work with him.
What did he do at the dealership?
He was a prep mechanic. So what he did was when new cars came in from the factory, he was the guy that checked them to make sure that there were quality control, make sure there were no defaults. The cars sometimes they would come from the factory, and a lot of things were not like finalized in the assembly, so they could like switch out wheels and tires, things like that. So something that maybe a customer would want, he would do all that type of work and then prepare the car for delivery. He also did a multitude of other jobs around the place. If anything ever broke, my father was the one to go and fix it, no matter what it was. So he realized the value of becoming depended on.
Yeah.
So the whole dealership depended on him not only for his 9 to 5 job of what he did, but also for all these other little things that went on. So my father made it so that the dealership was dependent on him to get there at 6 o'clock in the morning to unlock everything and open up, so that when employees started showing up at 6:30, 7 o'clock, everything was open and ready to go. My father was on the alarm list. So whenever the alarm went off, they called my father at 2 in the morning and he went there. So he realized that, in a way, not speaking English fluently, that yes, it could be a handicap, but at the same time, he just found other things that he would do that other people didn't want to do or wouldn't do, did them, and provided a service to the place that, if it was still open, I swear, at 85 years old, he'd still be going to work every day. He'd still be going there.
Of course he would. Of course he would. And that's what's amazing, man, is like and I'm sure he became wildly successful in life. And like you hear these stories of people who are immigrants that come to this country and make it. I mean, really, really make it. And do something that leaves that's a legacy, right? At least,
Yeah.
for the people that knew him in that dealership, at least, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's still people that worked at the dealership at that time. He was there for 34 years. The people that worked there at that time, I still hear from them, and the first thing they say is, "How's Dad?" or "How's Pops?" or "How's?" Like
Wow.
the first thing they say, and every one of them has some kind of a story about him, and his accent, his broken English,
Wow.
his just of like. But everybody always says the same thing: is that if you needed to get shit done, or if you had a spot delivery and it was 5:55 and he left at 6, he would stay until 7 or 8 o'clock or whatever it was to get the job done.
Wow.
To make sure that he was a big picture type of guy. And I think immigrants, Ken, I'll tell you, man, immigrants and first generation Americans that come from immigrants and that are raised in that type of environment have a monstrous advantage today over so many people because they know how to work.
Yep.
And they're not afraid to work.
That's right.
And work ethic and big picture is basically all, it's all that we know. Really. And, and we go to it and we depend on it. And, a quick buck is not, that doesn't exist.
No.
It just doesn't exist. And it isn't something that we do. We look to make money today. Yeah, we have, mortgages, all that kind of stuff. But, when you're an immigrant, you got to start to think about the future and everything. And that results in, you come here, you work your fucking face off. Yep. And you spend no money, you save everything, and then you turn around one day and your house is paid off, you have no credit card bills, you have money in the bank, and you can live, like they call it, living clean, meaning that you don't owe anybody anything except whatever you consume today.
Right.
And that's it going forward. And I think if a lot of us, especially salespeople, I think if a lot of us work towards that living clean type of mentality of, don't buy dumb, stupid fucking shit that you don't need, and, when you make money, don't spend it as fast as you make it. Like, save for a rainy day, because a rainy day is going to come. There's going to be a day when you're going to wake up and, you're going to check your bank balance and you're not even going to know how you got that much money in there.
Right. I love that, man. And I think that, again, there's, I look at, and I know a lot of, I think, like Grant Cardone, I think his parents were immigrants, I believe, and like I know
his grandparents, I think it was, right? I think it was his grandparents and
was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if I remember right, I think I saw a video or something one time where he's talking about that, and his grandfather, because he came here without papers, he had to do a whole bunch of jobs that normally wouldn't do, and that's where he got you got to do things that other people won't do.
Yeah.
At times to be.
I saw that. I saw that with my grandfather. We have a lot of some sort of Indian or something in our bloodline, so we were already here. But
Yeah.
I watched my grandfather. I mean, probably till a few years before his death, he was always on call for the company he worked for forever. So like I get that too. But there's something, and I know that Gary V, right?
Yeah.
Like
Hmm.
you know Gary.
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, you're so humble, man. I love that. But like there's something in your life, and maybe it was your father, and but I don't want to assume. There's always something though that, as growing up as a child, there was a person, there was a situation, an occurrence, something that happened that kind of made you who you became as an adult, and probably in some ways who you still are today. What's the first
Right.
thought that comes to mind?
That thing I said before when my father said those 5 words, I'll take him with me. I mean, that was monstrous change number one, because that really put me. I don't think anybody really grew up as fast as I did, because I was exposed to so many things. And I'm not talking, like, I make a joke all the time that I had the most dysfunctional childhood because I grew up in a car dealership, right?
Right.
And in some ways that is kind of true. 11, 12, 13, 14-year olds do not belong hanging around car dealerships. But
Yeah.
in the mid 80s, you could do shit like that, and it was okay. And thank God that it was okay, because man, I should, at some time, I should try to grab all of the things that I learned and all that information out of my head and put it into some type of a format, because the things I learned from 11, I want to say from 11 to 17, that was the best education that I ever got, that probably anybody could ever get, and that is priceless today. I mean, the ROI on that is disgustingly huge with a very, very small I, and the I was all labor,
Right.
really. Because I learned growing up, I learned negotiation. I learned about being responsible. I learned about making yourself valuable. I learned about how to make yourself valuable, not only in your job, but also in your career and to customers on a one-to-one basis.
Right.
I mean, just so many things that I picked up and learned. And then when I started selling cars, right? When I started selling cars at an extremely young age, I should have never been doing that at that age. But when I started selling cars, it was all natural. It was all organic. Like, I just started speaking to a customer. I just started taking it up, and I didn't even know where the words were coming from. Later on in life, I realized it's because I had seen it done correctly so many times in the future.
Yeah.
So selling cars for me was actually easy. Of
Sure.
course it was easy. I watched it happen from the time I was 11 to 17.
Yeah.
I had 6 years of on-the-job training. I had the best course in sales ever.
But did you, I'm sure at 11, that's when I got my first real job at an Italian restaurant, by the way. It was 11, but at 11 years old, you were kind of probably going there a bit begrudgingly.
I was going begrudgingly, I think, for the first like 3 days.
Yeah. Oh, that's all it took?
That's it. And then after that, when I got the sense of, now remember, I didn't go up into the front. I didn't go up into the showroom until a little bit later on, right?
Okay. Okay.
So for the first year or 2 years, I was very quiet and behind the scenes. I'd follow my father around all day long. But that was basically like in the service department.
Yeah.
So, the camaraderie, the joking around, the family type of atmosphere up there, because in the back, everybody has the same goal. It's just really to fix the cars and fix them right the first time so they don't come back,
Right.
and get them out as quick as possible, because there's always somebody waiting for that car and needs it again,
Yeah.
needs it to continue on with their life. So, so that was the first exposure that I had to the store. So it only took, seriously, man, if it took a week, that was a lot.
Wow.
You
And
know,
so you hung out in the service area. So man, yeah, I can't like you
Well,
saw a lot.
I was playing hooky sometimes. So what I would do, I figured out the amount of time that I needed in the morning, okay, to be able to miss the bus, but still be able to go to work with my dad. So
Oh,
I would so I would play sick right about up to that time. I think it was like 7:20 or something. So I would play sick up to about 7:22, miss the bus. School was too far away from my father to drive and then still get to work on time, you
yeah.
know? So it was like, I would play hooky. Maybe I think it was 6:20 actually. I would play hooky, play sick, play sick, and then hey, I think I'm okay. Oh, we missed the bus. Oh shit, wow, that sucks. Oh, I guess I may as well go with you, right? And but I would be like putting my jacket on as I was saying it,
Oh
you
my
know.
God, that's
So my
funny,
parents
dude.
caught on to that bullshit really fast, and they put a stop they put a stop to it.
Yeah, they're like he's got this timing thing down. So that, but that again, you learned at a young age how to sell because that's selling. I
That's
mean,
how. Oh man, look, I was selling from day one, and
yeah,
in reality, look, we're all selling.
yep,
We're all selling on a constant basis, and I'm really serious about the we all are selling thing.
yep,
I mean, everyone is. Look, even Jesus is still selling.
yep,
Okay, Jesus doesn't have all the souls, right? You
right.
go to church on Sunday, there's still empty seats, there's
That's
empty pews. So he may not be taking the ups, and he may not be generating the leads himself. But guess what? He's got people down there closing the deal. So if
oh,
Jesus
dude,
has to sell, we all have to sell. It's not a
that's
question.
funny. You're right, dude. You're right.
Funny but true, right?
Yeah, it's 1,000% true. So you worked at you were at the car dealership. Sounds like you were a non-paid personnel. um,
Well, okay, I'll tell you another funny story because you just talked about the non-paid thing. After a little while, when I got bigger, like when I was in my early teens, right,
yeah.
early to mid-teens, I had a whole side hustle going
Oh
at
my
the
God.
dealership,
How
right?
did I know that? I knew
Okay,
that.
so between at this time, now at this point, I was spending all day up in the front. I would find any and every excuse to go. When I say up in the front, I mean up in the showroom.
Yeah.
So I would find any and every excuse to go up in the showroom to wipe down the cars that I wiped down 3 times the day before, to empty the garbages that I emptied twice the day before. You know what I mean? Like basically for anything, and I would do a little something, and then I would migrate myself to the general manager's office or to the sales manager's office, and a conversation would start. I would sit there, and then I would just hit record in my brain and just sit there for the rest of the day. But
Wow.
I had a whole side hustle going of, hey, Frankie, run across the street, get me a cup of coffee, right?
Yeah.
And at that time, somebody would give me $2 and a cup of coffee was 80 cents. There was no change, you know? There was no giving change back or anything
Right.
like that.
Right.
A couple of coffees, a couple of runs for dry cleaning, a couple of runs to the Krausers to get cigarettes.
Wow.
Lunchtime would come. That would be 3 or 4 trips. In the afternoon, everybody needed another coffee and like a donut or a cookie or a brownie or something from the place across the street. I used to make like 150, $180 a week. Once again, remember mid '80s, I'd make that money just in tips and
Wow.
in no change and stuff, no change back and stuff like that.
Wow.
So I always found a way to provide a service or to do something. And look, I got it from my father, right? To
Yep.
do something that somebody else didn't want to do, or something that they didn't want to do themselves, and turn it into a service-based type of business to where I could make money.
People are and you had the right mindset and it's carried over into your adult life. We've had conversations about that, and people are afraid to ask for money for what they do. And a good friend of mine said to me one day, we were because I was working through that insecurity myself, and he said, dude, there is a guy here in Columbus, Ohio. There's a guy, and he nobody in particular. He just said, there's a guy in Columbus, Ohio that's
Hmm.
making $1 million a year picking up dog crap. Like,
Yeah.
People pay him to come and pick up their dog's crap out of their
Yeah,
yard.
come pick up
Now,
dog shit. Ain't that amazing?
Yeah, it's all over the place, right?
There's
So
money in dog shit.
yeah, right. And then it like that's the thing, man. Is you can there's so much money out there. You can make money doing anything. And so, as long as you're providing a service and a value, and that's what you learn as a young teenager. I learned that, like, if you provide a service, you provide value, you can charge money for it. People will pay for it. They'll pay you to bring them a damn donut. They'll pay you to bring them a coffee. They'll pay you to bring them whatever, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that once again, it comes from the immigrant mindset of creating something out of nothing. Like my dad would say all the time, if you have the ability and the desire to work, America's the place to be. Because if you just want to work, you can make money here, and you can basically make money doing almost anything that you want to do.
Yeah.
You know.
It surprises me that because you're 1,000%. It's like the guy picking up dog crap. He has employees.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine that. Like if I'm an employee for a dude picking up dog, like what? I'll go start my own dog crap picking up business. Why am I going to work for somebody doing that?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's somebody out there right now who's making money picking up dog shit. There's someone out there who's making up money scooping up cat shit out of litter boxes.
Right.
There's somebody who loves the Power Rangers and is making videos about how great the fucking blue Power Ranger is, and he's got sponsors. You know what I mean?
It's true,
and he's got sponsors. There's people making money playing video games.
Yeah. Oh,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, so anybody who says, "Oh, there's no opportunity, you can't make any money, you can't do this," shut the fuck up. You can make money. All you gotta do is you just gotta work.
You gotta work. That's it.
That's it. You gotta work, man. And sometimes you gotta do shit that you don't want to do.
And sometimes it takes a lifetime to figure that out. It
Unfortunately,
really does. It does. There's no, I learned it a long, long time ago, man. There is no free ride. But, so let's back up and talk about, so you went to school, you graduated from high school. Did you go to college?
I went to college. I did. I went to college. I did not graduate. I got enough of an education there in advertising and marketing to be able to realize that they weren't really teaching much of shit back then. And I don't really think they're teaching much of shit right now either.
No.
They're not teaching, at least they're not teaching anything that I think kids really need to learn right now. But that's a whole nother conversation. Yeah. That's a whole nother webinar or whatever. And,
yeah.
And if we go down that rabbit hole, we ain't coming out without rabbit shit on our noses. Yeah, we're not coming out for a while. So, So after college, that's when I started a family, and I realized that I had to make money, and I had myself in the exact same situation that my father had when he came here. That there was an instant need, like I had to earn. There was no choice. There was no sitting back. There was no trust fund. There was no nothing. There was just go to fucking work.
Right.
So at that period of time, I mean, I did a couple of different jobs. If it was hard, I did it. Put it that way, Yeah. And then there were two things that happened. There was a day at that time, we're talking very, very early 90s. I was working for Budweiser. Right, I was delivering, believe it or not, driving a truck and delivering beer. Wow. So I go to this place in Woodbridge, New Jersey, Poor Billy's it was called, and it had this extremely steep set of steps inside that you had to go to when you had to bring all of the kegs of beer, not the little kegs that you get for a picnic. I'm talking about the big 130 some odd pound kegs, and they would order 20 at a time, so you didn't want to bring them down one by one. They didn't have a slide. Some places had a slide. You'd put it on and you'd be able to slide it down. They didn't have any of that shit. You had to lug them down the steps.
Oh my gosh.
So I had them on a hand. I had two at a time on a hand truck going down, and I slipped. Right, and the rule was always, if you're ever going to slip or anything like that, you let go of whatever the cargo is. You never hold on to it. Right. So I let go of the cargo. I flew down the steps myself, and one of the barrels, the top barrel, I remember watching it still. It was going like this in front of me down the steps, hit the ground in front of me, and it hit it right on the edge, and it was like a spring, and it bounced right back into my lap again.
Oh,
So
man.
so I'm sitting on the bottom step. It had to be 15 steps down. I'm sitting on the bottom step with this 130 some odd barrel of beer in my lap. The other one, I remember it bursted, the nozzle on the top bursted, and it squirted some beer on me while I was going down, adding insult to injury. And I was like, this sucks, and I got to make a change.
Wow.
So I have the date written down. I wish I could turn the camera down because I keep it written down. June 17th of 1994. That was my wake up day, number one, where I woke up and was like, okay, it's time to not be a schmuck anymore, and and it's time to get busy and time to get real with what I was doing. So I applied for a job at a local newspaper, which I thank God I got. I mean, we were so broke at that time. A Walmart opened. I went to Walmart, bought a typewriter to type out a resume, right, and then packaged it all back up and returned it all to Walmart because I didn't have the money to pay to actually buy the typewriter.
Oh my God.
So that got me the job. That got me the job at the newspaper. And then within, I think it was about 6 months, the person who was the automotive rep who took care of the auto dealers at the time, he went on a bender and didn't come in for 3-4 days. And it was like they came to me and said, "Hey, you know auto dealers, don't you?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, as a matter of fact, I do." Like, "Okay, you're the auto rep now." And I'm like, "Well, what happened?" I'm like, "Well, what happened to Mr. Manley?" Right? His name was Frank Manley. "What happened to Mr. Manley?" And I was like, "Oh, we don't know. We haven't heard from him from days." And I'm like, "Yes." Right? So the first place. So where do you think the first place I go to?
Your dad's place.
Right. Because it was right. It was
Lincoln
literally
Circle.
on this.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
It was right on the same highway.
Wow.
So I took all of that knowledge that I have. Now, remember, I grew up in car dealerships. So when I went into a car dealership, it was like I was one of the employees. It was like, I spoke what I call dealerese. I spoke the language of car dealers already.
Yeah.
And I learned it from a very young age. So it was extremely simple. So I just took the, sales premises of everything that I had learned growing up in the store. I took the marketing principles that I had learned in school and just mashed the two of them together. And within a very short period of time, within I'd say about a year and a half to 2 years, I had my own agency. And, was representing car dealers. At that time, it was all traditional media, but I just turned it into a business for myself.
Wow, dude. Wow. That's incredible. So, but along that way, along that journey, tell me how you know Gary Vaynerchuk.
So I get a call one day. This is 2004. I get a call one day from a cable TV rep, local cable TV rep, and she says, "Hey, there's this guy I need you to see. He needs some help with his marketing and stuff." Mm-hmm. And I'm like, "Well, okay, what dealership is he at?" And he's like, No, it's not a dealership. It's a liquor store." So I looked and I was like, where the hell are you sending me? I ain't working with no liquor store. What, are you crazy? Right? And she's like, No. This guy's special, really. You got to go see this guy.
Wow.
So she gives me the name, and so she gives me Gary Vaynerchuk's name and his cell phone number. Okay, I don't call. I don't call him. Okay. About 2 days later, I get a call because she had also given my name and number to him.
Oh.
So I get a call, and what's really ironic is that back in the Budweiser days, I used to deliver to that liquor store.
Oh, no way.
It wasn't called Wine Library at that time. It was called Shoppers Discount Liquors.
And what was it his dad's at the time or
his
no?
dad's at the time. Yeah.
Oh, was it?
I have no recollection of his dad from that time either. So,
wow.
I already had that question, oh, what was his dad like when you? And I was like, I have no clue whatsoever. So I could have But he was working at the store at that time, so I very well could have delivered beer, and Gary could have been, no, a young Gary could have been the person who checked it in and signed the invoice for me.
Oh, well,
Which would,
but you just don't like you just had too many people
no,
on your route.
yeah, no
Okay.
clue, no clue whatsoever.
Wow.
So he calls me, and he's like, "Yeah, I need some help with some marketing. Can you help me out?" And I'm like, "Shit, I don't even want to do this, right?" So I'm like, "Yeah, okay, no problem, right?" So something's telling me, "Okay, if it works out like this, I got to go do it, right?"
Oh my God,
So I'm
that's
like,
funny.
"Okay." So I go to meet him, and the one thing I can tell you, and I can tell everybody for certain, is that Gary Vaynerchuk 2004 is the same Gary V 2018. It's the same guy. The numbers just got bigger. That
Wow.
was it. But he got a little older. We both got some gray in our hair.
Yeah.
But besides that, it's exactly the same.
Yeah.
But the thing that was amazing at that time, and honestly, forget about the fact that that now I can but now I can tell that story, and it's 100% it's 100% fact and true.
Yeah.
Forget about that. The things that I saw and learned, once again, through being associated with him and through observation and some of the things that we were doing, 2004, 2006,
Yeah.
we're 10 years ahead of ourselves at that time.
Yeah.
10 years ahead. He was starting to ramp up on Twitter, on Twitter the day that he started the show, that he started Wine Library TV. That was another crazy day where he calls me up early in the morning. It was always early morning calls. He'd call me up and be like, "Frank, I need to see you today." And he would just hang up because I didn't have the opportunity to say no.
Oh, you would answer?
Yeah, I would. Well, I would see it with him. Yeah, at that point, I answered already. I was getting paid, so I answered.
Oh.
So he calls me up, and he's at like 6:30. I got to see you today. Come up, and just hangs up.
Oh,
Okay.
jeez.
So I go up there, and I sit at I remember specifically. I sit at his desk, and I'm like, okay, so where's the fire? Is what I said.
Yeah.
And he's like, I got an idea. I was like, all right, what's the idea? He's like, I'm going to do a show. And I was like, what, a show on TV? And he's like, no, I'm going to do a show on YouTube. I'm like, you mean where the cat videos are? And he's like, yeah. And I said, what? And I remember I slouched down in the chair like this, like, what are you going to do a show about? And he's like, I'm going to do a show about wine. And I said, really? You're going to do a show about wine? He's like, yeah, we're going to taste wines, and I'm going to talk about how they taste. And I'm like, okay. He goes, and you know what else? It's like, what? He's like, you're going to do a show too. I said, oh, I am. He's like, yeah, you should do a show about sales and car dealerships and advertising and stuff. People will watch that shit. And I said, Gary, ain't nobody going to watch me do a show about car dealerships or sales or advertising or anything. The same way ain't nobody going to watch you do a show about wine.
Right.
Right? So who was right and who was wrong?
Wow, dude.
Right? But I knew very, very quickly. I'm talking about, when I say quickly, I'm talking about 3 seconds into watching the first one. Oh shit. Here it is. Here it is. How sometimes things happen in your life and you have this little feeling, this little buzz type of goes on, and you realize that you just witnessed something that is going to change everything from that point forward.
Yep.
That's that little, I was like, oh wow, oh shit.
Wow.
Something just happened here.
Wow. Somebody just said, Robert C. Stearns said in the comments, sounds like you should have been his client, LOL.
I think so. I mean, we did some great work together, but and you know what? He's 100% right, because I was his client, because I was learning from him just as much as I was doing for him.
Yeah.
Because I was learning from him, and then I was taking a lot of the things that we were doing and that I was observing him do at Wine Library, and I was moving them into the automotive space.
Yeah.
With an extreme amount of resistance. Extreme amount of resistance. Trying to talk to an auto dealer about doing Google AdWords in like 2007 is the same as trying to get someone who's Jewish to go to Christmas Eve Mass. Like they're not believing, they're not going to go. It's so out of it just goes against everything that they believe,
I know.
So you're trying to tell a dealership that they should invest money in 2007, that they should invest money into trying to manipulate the outcome of when somebody goes on this thing called Google, when they go and search for what you sell or the service you provide. When at that time, dealers were spending obscene amounts of money in television and radio and newspaper, right? And newspaper stuff, and even I was making a tremendous amount of money off of that type of behavior, but seeing at the exact same time, out of the other eye, every time I'd go to Springfield, New Jersey and go to Wine Library and do work there, seeing things that were actually working but were way ahead of time.
Yeah.
There were dealers that gave me money to do digital advertising, just to shut me up. They would say, you know what, Frank, go ahead, spend $500 on it. You know why? Because it's $500 that I'm going to invest into you shutting up and not talking about this anymore. And I'd be like, yeah, nice, right?
I know. Oddly enough, and I've said this to you, like I'm connected to all these people from the car business, and I've never sold cars in my life, but I started building websites professionally in 2002. And one of the first ones I did was for Crown Mercedes-Benz here in Columbus, Ohio. And I remember sitting and I had bought a couple of cars from them in the past. And so I knew the president of the dealership, and his name's Rip Ripley. He's gone now, but I'm talking to Rip, and I go, dude, you're not even in. I said, you don't have a website. And he's like, well, we have one on the back of MB USA out of New York or something. I go, dude, that's not a website. That's a landing page. Like, that's not even like real. And I go, you're not even in Google. And he goes, what's Google?
Like, what the fuck is that?
That was in '02, and I'm like, oh my God. So, I did organic SEO. I did some that pay per, I never got much into it though, but I know it's huge. And that's the thing is, again, it's, you've seen it throughout time. It continues to change. Now you've got social media, and you got to figure out how to do all that. And it amazes me how many people aren't doing that correctly, from dealerships to just regular dental practices. I mean, they're not using it properly. And I know you're the same way. I mean, I study the Giants, Grant Cardone, Gary Vaynerchuk. I watch what they're doing and how they're doing it, and try to figure out how that applies to a variety of industries. And I know you do that for at least the car business, if not more. But let me ask you this. Let's get on the track of helping people have a breakthrough, because I don't care if they're in the car business, if the auto industry crashed tomorrow, and there was not one dealer left for you to go visit, my gut feeling tells me you'd be okay.
I would, I pray to God. I would be okay, because if something ever happened to the auto industry, which I absolutely love, and I owe any ounce of success that I have now or in the future, I owe to the auto industry. If it were to collapse, then I would just go and I would just teach other industries, because no matter what's going on, there's always going to be winners and losers, and there's always going to be certain things that certain people need at certain times. There would not be so many hamburger joints now, right? So many hamburger franchises and everything if it wasn't for the crash in 2008 and 2009, because if you look back, that's when all of them came up. That's when the Five Guys and, that's when In-N-Out dramatically expanded. And why? Because the price point for going out to eat suddenly dropped. It dropped from $35 or $30 a person or whatever down to $10. So you needed it created a huge market, right? A huge void right there. So no matter what, there's always going to be winners and losers. So all I would do is I would just start to I would start to teach other industries how to create their own lead machine.
Yep.
And I would just create lead machines for other industries. That's it.
Right. So throughout your, I think we're close to the same age. You're probably a couple years younger than me. But yeah.
I shouldn't do that when I have water in my mouth.
That's messed up, dude. So far, what is the greatest life lesson you've learned so far?
Never stop.
Love that, dude.
That's it. Never stop. No matter what. Never, never, never stop. You stop when God says, okay, you're done.
Right. Are you gonna retire someday?
I'm going to try as hard as hell not to be honest. I'm going to try not to. If I'm forced to retire because of my health or something like that, that's one thing. That's God telling you, okay, time to stop.
Yeah.
The whole time to stop thing doesn't just mean that, you die.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of other things that could happen to you that are just say, okay, time to stop.
Right.
But even then, even if for some reason medically I couldn't travel and hustle and do the things that I do, right. I would just try to continually move it into something else to teach other people how to do.
Yep.
How to do what I do. That's it. But that's the lesson, man. Never, ever, ever stop. Because as soon as you stop, my God, everything bad starts happening. As soon as you stop, everything bad starts happening. The most important one is you lose momentum.
Dude, action solves all problems. I think it does, man.
There's a funny little saying that goes around in the car dealership, and I don't know who said it first, but I say it all the time, and it's always like, hey, you got some problems? Just sell some cars.
Right?
It fixes everything, no matter what. Just sell some cars, and all the problems mysteriously just go away, and the sun comes out, and everything's good.
Yeah.
And that goes back to that whole don't stop thing. Seriously, don't stop. You lose your momentum. Number one, momentum is so hard it is so hard to build up and so hard to get fuel behind.
Yeah.
But when it's running, it runs so well, and it can run so well on its own.
Yeah.
And then if you just keep fueling it, it'll grow faster than what you can actually control. And that's a big problem. Is a lot of people, they start to build momentum. They think that that's success, and then they do one of these things where they just they just lean back, and it's like, you fucking idiot, what are you doing? Now's not the time to lean back. Now's the time to push harder.
Dude, I'm guilty of it personally. I'm guilty of that.
So am I. That's why I can say it.
Yeah, it's like, all right, things are going well. Let's go play golf.
Things are going well. Let's go make them better.
Yeah.
And then there'll be a day will come when we can play golf.
Right. Like in the middle of the workday, I can remember many, many times going, I'm going to go play golf. My employees got this, and it's like, no, man, you can't do. You can't. Not until you. I don't know what the target is. Maybe it's 100 million or 500 million, but at some point, you can say, okay, I've earned the right to go play golf in the middle of the day, but not in your mid 40s. I know that because I've done it.
You know what? I don't even know. Look, if you like to play golf and if that's what you want to do, then that's great. God bless you. And if you feel happy doing that, then you won.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. You won. And that's great. But nah. Nah. I mean, if you're, even if you're in your 60s and stuff, and there's more that you can do. Hey, maybe you want to start to play golf and you want to become a senior pro. Then fucking play golf every day.
Right.
Play golf 2 times a day.
Right.
If it's going to lead towards you doing something that you really want to do, then do it.
Yeah.
Seriously, then do it. Then do it and do it until your fucking arms fall off. But but if you're going to go out there because you think that you deserve it, or you think that you can sit back, or I earned this shit, I'm going to go and and it's a Tuesday and you're not on vacation, then fuck you. Then don't come around and complain later on when, something goes wrong here or you lose this client or some kind
Dude, shit. Yeah,
got to
I
something.
knew, I knew having you on, I'd end up in tears from laughing because
Oh,
you just say it like it is. And I love that about you, man. But that's what makes life real, man, is just being like, you're just you, dude. You're just transparent and you call it like it is. And I freaking love that. So let me ask you another question, man. I don't want to keep you on here all day, but hey, what do you think?
but hey, you will.
Yeah, hey, I will
And
anyway.
you should if you got me and
Dude, I know, man.
you
You're a
should.
hard guy to tie down. So, what's the biggest mistake you see people make in life?
Lazy.
What do
Well,
you,
it's really two.
why do you
Lazy,
think?
soft, get soft. I don't know what my face looked like when I just said that, but it probably wasn't good. It was probably kind of like
Yeah, like disgusted.
disgusted.
Yeah,
I think lazy is really like one of the biggest ones. They just don't, people just don't want to put in what it really takes to be able to do what they really want to do. And then they say it can't be done or it's too hard
right.
or whatever. And then, or they suddenly start to blame it on somebody else or something else. That was that whole like, the man's holding me down. Ain't no fucking man holding you down. You're holding yourself down. Give me that shit.
But
Where is this man anyway? Right?
but what there's something there's and I have a suspicion of what it is, but I want to hear what you think. There's something that create. I don't think that people are just born lazy. I don't think that. I think that we are all born with this innate ability or desire, at least, to succeed, but something creates that laziness. Something creates it. What do you think that is?
I think lack of struggle in people's life. I think struggle is good.
Yep.
I think everybody needs to go through struggle. I
Yep.
think everybody needs to go through pain to really, to really know what true success is and actually how to go after it. I think a pain is a part of that educational process.
Yep.
I think it's Mike Tyson who said that before a fight you can have all the plans you want in the world, you can spell it all out in your head, you can do everything, but then when motherfucker gets punched in the mouth, all those plans go right out the window, and you don't remember any of them, and then you're suddenly fighting back, like
Right.
literally fighting to get to the next bell.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that you can sit down for a minute and then put your thoughts together. And I think that's a necessary part of life. And I don't know very many successful people and when I say successful, I'm talking about people that would qualify or say themselves that they've achieved some success, not what we say someone's successful,
Right.
I think somebody that actually would look and say, yeah, I did pretty good, who didn't have some really shit dark, hard struggle,
Yep.
eating spam and beanie weenies time in their life. I think we all have to, I think it's necessary to go through. And I think the fact that some people don't go through it for whatever reason, either they don't put themselves in that type of predicament or in that type of spot by starting a new job or starting a new career and actually having to work hard at it, having to learn it and master it and everything, or whether it be that something happens in life that sets them back a step, or it could be that punch in the mouth. It's different for everybody.
Yeah.
There
It was Tyson. He's like, everybody have a plan until they get punched in the mouth
yeah,
or get punched in the face.
punch in the
So,
face and then it's over.
And that's true, man. And I think that, again, you're 1,000% right. I think, and it was, I believe, and I could be wrong, Shakespeare, one of those smart guys, said, the greatest disservice we do to our children is we steal away their hunger. And so, and I have two daughters, and it's like, I don't want to see them like they're spoiled as hell. But now they're getting a little bit older, and I'm like, oh God, what have I done? Like, you know.
Well, in no way, shape, or form am I the parental advice fucking guru and everything, because that's a bunch of bullshit. And
Right, right.
and I think we all know that. But the one thing I will say is that you got to let I'm not a parenting advice guru, but I'm going to give you some anyway.
Yeah,
I think you got to let your kids find their own way.
I agree.
I think you got to let them trip. You got to let them skin their knee. You got to let them fail.
Yep.
You got to let them, shoot at the goal and miss it.
Yeah, yeah.
You got to let that happen, because they have to feel the pain, and it has to become a thing that they've got to find their own pain. When you create this is a big misconception. You create two people get together, you create a child, right? And you look at that child as a child forever, but what you really don't realize is that you created another you. You created a person, Yeah. And the same way that you have faults, and the same way that you have shortcomings, and the same way that you have strengths and things that you can do, that little person is going to have them too. And that little person has to go through through the evolution, or through the, evolution of their life.
That you're so right, and I think parents and adults forget that shit. They forget that hey, this kid's not perfect. They're gonna make mistakes, and
I think parents and adults are fucking selfish. I think that's what it is. I think they're selfish, and they spoil their kids because it makes them feel good, not because it's what's best for the kid. Because if you really love somebody, a child, or your mate, or a buddy, or something, you tell them the truth because it's what's best for them, and you put their interest and what's best for them before your own. But you see so many parents, and it doesn't matter the generation. Don't give me the millennial shit either, because I'm not a millennial. I'm older, and I know there were a lot of spoiled assholes when I was a kid too.
Right.
And they turned into grown up assholes. What you expect was going to happen? But I think it's not even parents are selfish. They're just in the parental role at that moment. It's like, make me fucking laugh now.
Dude, I can't. I'm sorry, but you're right. But you said just the way you say they turned into grown up assholes.
Well, that's true.
It's true, man. That's why it's so funny.
I say all the time too. Every kid, every person at some time in their life between the ages of 13 and 18, every single person turns into an asshole. Right? We all have Ken, you've gone through it. Don't say you didn't. Lying is the devil, right?
No, I did.
I've gone through it. Everybody has at some point in their life, in that little bracket there, in that little point of time, you turn into an asshole. That's just the way God programmed us all for some reason. Maybe he did that at that time so that we would start to feel some pain and some resistance from old people and just from life, so we would learn how life really is, so that when we get out of the asshole stage, we can become good adults, because we've gotten a couple punches in the mouth when we were little, and it wouldn't hurt so bad, and they wouldn't be such monumental ones. But then the thing that happens is that selfish Sally goes and rescues little Tyler and says, oh no, the teacher is the one who's picking on you and stuff. And it's like, no, let the kid get fucking picked on. Let him get picked on. Let him learn that he's got to, that he can't be a little wise ass in class, and that he can't, that he can't be cracking jokes all the time and everything like that.
Dude, that's so true.
And you got a peanut allergy. Stay away from the fucking peanuts.
I see it, man. But that's true. Again, it goes back to the greatest disservice we do to our children is steal away their hunger and their own pain, because we have to learn. There's no way to learn without. I don't know. I don't know of a way. So let me. And again, I don't want to keep you all day. And there's a lot of great people on here too watching. So what's look? I know that you.
You got more time. I don't have anything for a little bit, so okay. I know if you're gonna. I know if it's going to be something to do with Ken Walls, you gotta make the time window big.
So like you've done some amazing things. I know you've emceed some big automotive shows. You've done a lot of things in the auto world. You're known around the world in the auto business, at least, as a real freaking rock star. You're a giver. I've called you, I don't know how many times, just to chat and talk through life challenges, and you've always got some really great advice. And so, what's next for Frank? And by the way, in the post on Facebook, I use hashtag Get More Frank, because you got that. and dude, now you've got the whole Sandman thing going on. You want to tell everybody about the Sandman thing? Like, it's funny.
All right.
Hell, man, I love
All
it.
right, so I'll tell you about the Sandman thing. So this is what happened. So I was on the way back from a conference, right? And if I remember correctly, I actually have to look this up so I get the facts 100% straight on it. So I believe I was on my way back from Las Vegas from a conference, and the Wi-Fi didn't work on the plane. Right, so you got a 5-hour flight, no Wi-Fi. You got to entertain yourself somehow. So I start talking to the guy next to me, right, on the plane. So we start talking, and everything. We're having a conversation back and forth. And I remember I reached down to get something out of my bag that was on the floor, and I'm still talking, right? Then when I sit back up, I look over, and the guy's like this. The guy's fucking asleep. In the middle, and I'm looking at him, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, oh my God, am I, the insecurity and the stupid fucking psychosis shit starts in my head, and I'm like, oh my God, am I that boring? Like, I just gave a keynote at this conference. Did I bore the shit out of everybody?
Oh my God,
I don't.
dude.
And I'm saying to myself, I don't think so. I mean, everybody was like, every time you do the call and response, it was working, and everybody was engaged. I didn't see anybody on their phone except to take pictures of the presentation. I think it was good. Like, what the hell's going on?
Oh my God.
So the guys, now I'm starting to get mad at the guy for falling asleep, right? And he's sitting, he's sitting there like this, right? And he's like, got his mouth open a little bit. So I snap a picture of him. Totally the wrong thing to do. I snap a picture of him. And then the flight attendant comes and says, "Oh, the Wi-Fi is back. We reset it, and the Wi-Fi is back on." So I'm like, "Okay, great." I go on my phone. I log into the Wi-Fi. I put the guy's picture up on Facebook, and I write, "Look, I am so fucking boring that I cannot keep this guy, entertained or engaged for more than 3 minutes into a flight."
Yeah.
Okay. About a minute later, the Wi-Fi goes out again.
Oh.
Okay. So I'm like, oh, whatever. Okay, great. I'm like basically just staring out the window the whole time because I can't sleep on planes for some reason. So land in Newark, and as soon as you land, your phone like blows up and goes crazy. Right. So it like goes nuts. I don't keep Facebook notifications on my phones, but I go to Facebook and I see the post has like umpteen, like 40 or 50 likes, like 60 or 80 comments on it of people like laughing. Yes, you are boring. You put me to sleep. People taking selfies of themselves asleep, right? Like this, and boom, and then take a selfie and put that up, right? And I'm like, right? I just thought for a second, like, didn't do nothing. The next, 2 or 3 days later, I'm on another flight to somewhere, and the fucking guy next to me falls asleep again, like right away. So I take another picture, I put it up, right, and I write something like, "What is it? Is it my cologne? Is it my shirt? Right? Is it the patterned shirts I wear all the time? Like, what is it that And I see the engagement is sky high.
Oh, it's crazy.
Right. So now this is bringing this whole thing to life in my mind about being genuine on social. Like I always said, how genuine you had to be, right? And that you had to do real things, and pictures of Lambos and money on a hotel room bed and shit. That wasn't going to last very long. No. Even though people are still doing it, and people are like freaking reposting that shit. But that's a whole nother conversation. Yeah. And enough for lions too. So So I'm seeing like the genuineness of going and actually making fun of yourself, of how powerful that is,
Yep.
of showing your human side, and and your faults and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. Right.
Yeah.
So I keep this experiment going to the point of where now, I made up a hashtag Sandman Seatmate, because everybody,
Oh,
this, and really, is it really all that big of a deal? No, because people fall asleep on airplanes all the time,
right.
right?
Right.
It's no big deal whatsoever. It
Right.
constantly happens. But it's at the point now where a week doesn't go by where I don't have at least 10 people tag me in posts, right, of
Yeah.
pictures that they take on a plane themselves of somebody else sleeping.
Exactly, dude. You've created and that's one of that's that my the reason I wanted to bring this up is, you've taken something that's very, very common, you made it comical, and it is a little strange the dude fell asleep right in the middle of your conversation, but but you took something that some people would have just gone home and talked to their wife about, like, this asshole fell asleep, and I was literally in mid sentence, and he, like, but like, you took it and made something fun out of it. You made fun of yourself, which you do a lot of, just to in play, and it's now turned into this thing, and it just
Oh,
gets
it's
more.
a thing. It's a thing for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually have people take pictures of fake pictures of themselves asleep, right, and then text them to me
Yeah.
from numbers I don't know who it is.
Right. That's awesome,
So
dude.
my number's obviously on social. So the people just go and they just text me a picture of like this of themselves asleep on a plane. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Right.
What did I do? What in the world did I create?
Dude,
I will I will tell you a really funny Sandman story if you want to
yeah,
hear
yeah,
it.
yeah.
It's really, really good. So I'm in Newark. I don't remember where I was going, and it's irrelevant. So I'm sitting on the plane, and you can hear this group of people coming down the tunnel onto the plane, or
Yeah.
the jet bridge onto the plane, and they're loud and they're fighting back and forth, right? And it's like Chinese or Japanese or Korean or something like that. They're going back and forth in, right? They get onto the plane, and like the whole plane gets quiet as they come in, and it was almost like this theatrical type of thing that was going on, right? So
Yeah.
they come in, the whole plane gets quiet. They're still bickering back and forth. The gentleman, the dad, so to say, of the family, goes and he sits next to me.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the wife like barks something at him, nasty, nasty. Any Asian language, when they get mad, you can tell like they're
Yeah,
mad, like
right.
short and right. It's like very
Yeah.
right? So she says something to him and then goes into keeps walking, and the kids follow. So the guy goes, he sits down next to me, and he's like that, and he closes his eyes and goes to sleep. And he goes to sleep. And I'm looking, and I'm like, I don't blame this fucking guy. Right? Like, I can only imagine what goes on a constant basis. Okay, so about 5 minutes later, the flight attendant comes up and taps him on the leg to wake him up, and says, "Sir, I've changed around the seating on the plane, and I've made it so that you can go and sit with your family."
Yeah.
And he looks at me, and he looks up at the flight attendant, and he goes, "No." And he puts his head back down and closes his eyes.
Oh my
And I'm like, oh, this guy's my fucking hero now.
god.
Like, no, and like, no, one, like, yeah, obviously, no. I can't
Yeah.
believe the flight attendant even came up and was like, he didn't say no, thank you,
Yeah.
or he just made this total look of
Yeah.
disgust and was like, no, and put his head right, right back down. So
I'm gonna sit with the Sandman.
I'm going to sit with the
Yeah.
Sandman and
Dude,
enjoy these couple of hours.
that's funny, man. So what's we we can wrap this up here in a minute, but what's next for you, man?
There are a lot of big things coming in, in Frank J. Lopes' world. I mean, like a lot of big stuff
Yeah.
that's on the way. A lot of it's in development.
Yep.
A lot of it's in development, so I don't really want to talk about it. I don't like letting letting the cat out of the bag and shit like that.
Yeah.
And saying things that are not 100% concrete. But
Right.
one thing I can tell you is that things are going to get big. They're going to get big really, really fast.
Yeah.
And the amount of value that's going to be put out there from me and my team is going to be absolutely tremendous. I mean, we're really going to help a lot of people really reach their potential and really make a lot of money. Yeah. And through the course, make a lot of money in the course of helping other people.
Yeah.
And of helping other people find what they want and get in touch with people that they need to get in touch with and just make good things happen all over the place. I mean, there's big shit coming. Like big shit coming. Dude, I was not thinking big enough. I was never thinking big enough. Somebody asked me, "Where are you going to be 3 years from now?" It was recent too. Yeah. Someone, Sean Hayes, actually asked me, "Where are you going to be 3 years from now?" And I think Lisa asked me the same question. Yeah. And I said, "You know what? I'll tell you the truth. I can't think that big. Like it's going to be so good that I can't. My mind right now is not educated and mature enough to be able to think that big." Yeah. Right? Well, I did educate it, right, and showed my mind some things that let it see a little bit more.
Yeah.
And that is bigger than anything that I've ever done or ever even imagined doing. So there's good shit coming. There's really good.
And I have the privilege of being a really close friend of yours, I think. I'm just kidding.
You are. And you don't even know everything, but you know a lot.
I know a lot, and I know I know some of the stuff coming, and I'm like you're my hero. So I'm very, very happy for you, bro. I love you like a brother. I'm so grateful that you agreed to, and like, man, we've juggled this around a couple of times to get you on the show, and I'm so grateful that I got you on here. I knew my face would be hurting from laughing by the end, and it does. It hurts.
I did my job.
It hurts, man.
I did my job.
So a couple of people did ask how they follow you. Let's let them know how to follow you, man.
Anywhere on social, man. Just go into the search bar, type my name, Frank J. Lopes, or just type in "Get More Frank." You'll find one of my pages, and follow. And anybody that does, seriously, shoot me a message. Shoot me a message on Instagram, or shoot me a private message on Messenger on Facebook, and let me know who you are, man, and let's connect.
Yeah, awesome, dude. Listen, man, thank you from the bottom of my heart.
It's my pleasure, bro. Really, it's my pleasure. Ken, you're doing great things too, man. I mean, you have this format of this show set up so that it's about the guest, because of course that's the way you are, always about giving and making it about somebody else. Yeah. But the things that you're doing with this show and the stuff that I know that you have boiling up inside of you and everything is going to be absolutely great. And the legacy of Ken Walls, breaking down walls, is not going to be just walls you're breaking down, man.
I appreciate.
It's going to be things much bigger than that.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate that, man. And I know that everybody on here that that they don't know. There's a lot of people on here that don't know who you are, but they want to connect with you. So I'm very, very grateful. And once they get to know you, man, they're going to love you like I do, man. You're a freaking rock star. And everybody that is on here that watch this, thank you for sharing this out. Thank you for all the laughs. We got a lot of laugh faces, man.
Well, thank you everybody watching for the time that you invested into watching this. I know everybody's got busy lives and stuff, so whether you're watching this live right now or you're watching it on the replay later on, thank you very much for investing the time with Ken and I today. We appreciate you more than you could ever even imagine.
That's right. Yeah, and you just wrapped it up for me, so thank you. I appreciate it.
You guys
have an awesome day. Frank, don't hang up. I'm gonna end the Facebook Live. Thank you guys. Appreciate you. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day. Peace out.
Bye, everybody. Be great.
See ya.